Hey, everybody. For those of you that are watching, Helen and I are trying to figure out this process of doing a live where it's between the two of us, but from different locations. We normally do this on Zoom. Zoom, that's usually the place we do it. But today we decided, hey, why don't we try to do this over Facebook as well to see if we can add some value, share with all of you here on some of the tools and techniques we've been using to help individuals manage their anger, learn to develop a sense of control over the negative emotions, and really to remind people, because we've needed the reminder on so many occasions throughout our life, that we don't have to be controlled by those negative feelings, that we can do better, that we can respond the way we choose to versus what we've been taught, trained, or programmed to do throughout most of our lives, which usually means that our responses are not exactly what we would believe to call, honorary, worthy, something that we feel proud about. Usually we respond in ways, the pressure situations where we don't feel proud about the results, about the communication. And that's what led myself to learn these skills of clinical hypnosis and neuro-linguistic programming, is because I was one of those guys. I was one of those guys that used to lose my cool over the smallest things. And when I say small, I'm talking about, driving down the road and somebody looks at you and you look at them, and instantly my brain used to think, what's that guy's problem? Like that used to be me. Or even just sitting at a restaurant where if the waiter that walked by looked at me and I looked at him, and if they didn't smile, I instantly used to assume that guy's a jerk. He's got an issue with me. Talk about insecure, which is where I started off my life as. And that's really why we're here, because we know what it's like to have to live with those negative beliefs, which drive negative emotions, which turn our lives into something that I don't really think we can call amazing or fruitful or something that we're proud of. There's moments that we're proud, of course, but how many times have we been stuck in those places where we don't feel proud about the way we showed up? We don't feel good about how we responded to certain pressure situations, especially when we're talking about people we care about, people we love, our friends, our family, people in your inner circle, people who we want to have a long-term relationship with, a friendship with throughout our lives. The old saying goes, do better. And that's one of the things that I'm proud to say that we're learning to do every day. So we're learning to do better, and we want to take a few minutes, and share how we do better with you in hopes that it can inspire you to learn something new, which really that's all it is. Learn a new skill set that teaches you new belief sets, that creates new results based on a new habit that you form in your life. So before I move on, let me switch over to Helen. She's got lots to share here. Miss Helen, feel free to take it away.
Actually, today is a good time to share some real life experience from a client, and it's good to to put in this group where our anger comes from. Well, when we have anger moments that are not being handled, it leads to, I would say, easily get frustrated with other things in other people in their life. So what happened was a client was angry at her child, and because we didn't have time to work on it yesterday and this morning, she shared with me that she got into argument with her spouse. So I realized when we have those moments, little moments of anger not handled, is easily triggered to other things, even though we don't want to, but because anger is an emotion stores in our body that automatically just show up without much control. So this is the example that when you have any negative emotions inside of you, and if you haven't had a chance to resolve them, so they show up as a response to future we what would you call it? Environment stimulus. So maybe Coach Allen can share a little bit more about belief and anger that we have in our mind, that he can share with you as simple tools to let go and handle it quickly.
Yeah, no, that's actually a really good point. Folks, I've had so much experience learning about anger management with Helen, both in our business life and in our personal lives. I actually think this might be a good time for Helen to first share her experiences and what she does to help manage her anger, so she can share with you from real life experience as well. Then, of course, I'm happy to share mine, but I think that was a really good time for you, Helen, to share with the group as well. So why don't you go ahead? You go ahead and get started. You're so kind to always give it to me first. You go ahead. Rooting for you. Got this.
Okay, because I'm a mom, I have kids, especially my son. I used to honestly get angry at him quite often, and even as little thing as dishes that he failed to put away, and in the past I would without thinking have this thought in my mind, maybe he's not respecting me, or maybe he's not doing things what I expect him to do. Maybe he's not valuing what I give him, or basically just respecting me in a way. So I would, without thinking, I would snap at him. I would say, yell at him sometimes. I raised my voice, and what happened was that created a lot of disconnection between us. And now what I do is, instead of reacting, I ask myself first, a few things. Why am I so angry at him? Is it worth getting angry at him for the little tiny thing that he's not doing? I mean, he's a student, he's studying, he's got probably other things in his mind, and the dishes or whatever the mess he's creating in the house might not be as important to him. So I started to put myself in sort of in his mind, his shoe. Maybe he's had so much going on, right? So that's outside of me. And then I started to look inside as well. What is causing me right now? If I scream at him, what would happen to my relationship with him? Or that moment, I realized I have a choice. Instead of reacting, saying things to him, I started to think first. Is this worth it? Does he deserve this kind of response from me? So right now, I'm a little bit more calm. But that was after I handled myself first in the past. Because in the past, there was so much frustrations inside of me, and little things get me triggered, like the little dish that my son dish in the sink that he didn't put it away, right? And that helped a lot, just to sit back and think, is it me or is it him? So that makes a difference right now. So if you're going through moments, not just that, I have to tell you, the worst thing is when we act act out in front of our kids, we're not just accumulating frustrations and sad moments. I also feel guilt for screaming at him. So instead of frustrations, feeling bad after, if you, in the past, I would get mad at my kid, maybe yell at my kid, instead of just feeling angry and sad about, the whole situation, there would be guilt moment as well. So all the negative emotions accumulate inside of me. So there is tons and tons of negative emotions that often we use as a response. And not until I take care of all the negative emotions, I actually stay calmer. If you're feeling angry, in front of your spouse, chances are there are probably other negative emotions or say situations inside of you or needs inside of you, or your thoughts or beliefs about them or about yourself haven't been discussed. All right. So until you really take a look at inside, you won't be able to see other people's choices or why they do certain things, what make them do the thing they do. Also, you are not even aware of yourself in the moment, right? Like people always say, is that enough for you to put so much energy into that, tiny little things? For example, not putting dishes away, or not coming out, coming down to dinner with you. Maybe they're busy. Maybe they have other things going on in their life. Like Wayne Dyer always say, we do not know enough to feel offended by people's behavior, right? We never know enough. Sometimes we just make assumption in our head what we thought is true, but do we really know enough to cause us to have these negative emotions showing up in our life? So because when we are not able to find out or make assumptions about that, we just use them as a response to their behavior. So it's important to recognize the type of emotion that shows up in your body and handle those first. Ask yourself, is this true? Or do I need to put that much energy in this circumstances? Okay, there we go. Oh, okay, and is Coach Allen to share something that might be valuable in this group?
Sure. Yeah. Awesome share. Really good. Folks, to tap on or to add on to what Helen was talking about, if you can, please make a note of this, okay? Everybody in life goes through 3 stages when it comes to communication, when it comes to improving the way that we not only feel inside of ourselves, but also on how we connect with the people in front of us, the people who we're talking to. And these 3 stages are known as survival, stability, and success. Survival, stability, success. What do I mean by this? Well, I learned this probably 20 years ago by this entrepreneur named Brad, who was trying to balance out his family life with his entrepreneurial life. And he found that the more that he got frustrated at work, the more it was easy for him to take it out by accident, of course, not like he ever meant to do it. But the easier it was for him to be short-tempered with his wife, with his kids. And he realized that one day when he came home, almost every communication he had with his son, with his daughter, it was either avoidance, like they didn't want to talk to him, or in the smallest thing that went wrong, he would just lose his cool. And what he realized is that if he continued going down that pathway, he knew that one day he would no longer have the ability to talk to his kids. Because as the old saying goes, if you don't treat them well when they're young, a lot of times when they're older, they don't treat you very well either. It's monkey see, monkey do. So what he learned was that anyone who's in that stage of constant yelling or avoiding, that's what's called the survival stage. And the survival stage basically means that we're not speaking so well to each other, or it's not so bad that we're hating each other. It's communication at a level where we're just kind of hanging in there. We have dinners as a family, but it's kind of quiet. We ask the son or daughter, "Hey, how's school today?" They're like, "Yeah, it's fine." It's just enough. And what he said was that in order to move from survival to security, that's the second step. He said the shift has to happen in survival. And in survival level, what has to happen, the person who is the lead, who is meant to be a leader, are demonstrating a level of behavior that they want that person to emulate. So, and I say this out of respect, okay? I'm not pointing fingers. I think everybody's done this. But typically what parents will say is, why can't my kid do this? Why can't they act that way? They should be like. So what they're really doing is they're projecting what they want the kid to act as. But a lot of times the parent is not demonstrating enough for that kid to follow. It's always monkey see, monkey do. What one monkey does, the other monkey does, right? It's a slang term that I got from Bob Proctor years ago. And so what he said he had to do, Brad said, I keep wanting to tell, my kids keep avoiding me, but I realize it's because every time they talk to me, I'm almost raising my voice at them. So what he had to learn to do is, number one, he had to learn what Tony Robbins talked about years ago. And that's, if you have a family, or if you're surrounded by people that you love, you got to learn to live on less rules. Now, in contrast, that doesn't necessarily mean, then just let the kids run around, do whatever they want, go crazy, jump on the tables. There's got to be a reasonable level we're talking about here. But what Tony described years ago is he said, most parents, and I'm paraphrasing, most parents have a certain way of living based on what their parents taught, based on what their parents taught, based on what their parents taught. And they have their own sets of rules that anything outside of that, the parents will usually start to flip out, get upset. So the demand, the level of strictness is really high. And if that works for you, that's great. But what Tony was trying to describe, because he had interviewed somebody that had 8 children, he interviewed an octomom. So imagine having a household with not 1, not 2, not 3 kids, not 4 kids, 8 kids. When he interviewed the mom and dad, they said the way that we're able to live happy, even though we've got chaos in the house, is that they simplified the rules by saying, is what they're about to do is going to hurt them or not? And basically what the rule was is, as long as my kid's not getting hurt, I'll let them do it. I'll let them do it for a period of time. Now, of course, you got your own household. If you got kids, you got to set your own rules. But you may want to ask yourself, if you want to move from survival to security level. And security means that there's connection at this level. If you want to get out of that survival level, you may want to ask yourself, what rules can I be a little more flexible with that's not going to harm me or the kids or the family? So that's number one. Number two, if you can learn to operate that way, what that starts to teach you is that it's okay to be a little more loose, because not only does it help with the children's emotions in learning to deal with mom and dad, they're not so angry, they're not so uptight per se. Sometimes, that's how kids perceive us as, but they start to see another side of us as parents that maybe they didn't get to see before. They get to see more patience, more calmness. And that's huge, because if we're talking about being able to deal with our anger management, like actually have anger management, the first thing we got to figure out is, well, what makes us angry? What makes us angry? And then figure out a way to eliminate that anger, at least do it at a level where it goes from a level 8, 9, 10, and at least try to bring it down to it's like a level 1 or 2, something more tolerable for everyone, right? So the first thing you may want to ask yourself is, number one, I'm going to recap everything. Which level are you at in terms of your personal anger management abilities? And don't just judge based on how you feel, judge based on how the people who love you communicate with you. So if you're like, my kids barely talk to me, then that would probably be a low grade. Or if you're at a place where you're like, I can talk to my kids for 5 minutes, but then we eventually have to separate because somebody's going to lose their cool, well, then that might be a higher grade that you give yourself. That's the survival stage. And number 2, as a recap, to get to security, you have to ask yourself, kind of like what Helen said earlier, what things can you be more flexible about, knowing that it's just more about your personal preference versus the safety of your child or the safety of yourself or the safety of the people around you. And again, it's because sometimes we make things such a big deal when really it's only personal preference. And I say this not pointing fingers, okay? Like when I come home, I want to see the dishes done too. So if my daughter doesn't do the dishes, but for me, it's not so much at night, it's more the morning when I wake up. If I see dishes in the sink, it just happened last week. I woke up, I went to get my water, get my coffee, and there's a pile of dishes in the sink. And I'm thinking, man, this kid, if that were me growing up, I would have got the backhand. But, we don't do that. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, I can either get mad about this, or maybe I can at least appreciate that she's here at home feeling really comfy about mom and dad, knowing that she's not going to get her head cut off for not doing the dishes. And the trade-off of that is that even though she doesn't do the dishes, she has like my daughter has a deep belief that mom and dad truly love her. She has no question about that. But that I had to develop. Okay, so and number 3, I'm going to wrap up this talk real quick. I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but just to give you an idea, because I know some people are like, okay, well, so what does success look like? If you talk about survival, you talk about stability. Stability is where you can kind of talk to each other. What does success look like, Alan? Well, everyone has a different definition. Let me share with you mine. Success in anger management is when we get angry about something, the inside of us is blowing up like crazy, but the outside of us still remains calm for a period of time. I don't believe that humans can be calm forever. You can only take so many hours of a rough situation before you want to blow up. So I get that. But a person who's successful in handling their emotions can remain calm for a period of time, long enough to be able to process what's really going on out here and not make the mistake of saying things that are so harsh to the other person that it tarnishes the relationship. This is crucial because we all have those thoughts. We all get mad about stuff. But remember something, success in anger management means the ability to have emotional control that's good enough that no matter what we think about that person, the wife, the husband, the kid, the best friend, the teacher, the business partner, the employee, whoever, no matter what we think about them that might be negative, we don't just say it out loud and then destroy that person and then have to rebuild that relationship, hoping that we never broke it. That's super critical if we want to end up growing in our lives and be in a place where no matter what happens to us, we know that we've been able to grow ourselves and our relationships, that we don't make the mistake of hurting people in ways that we really don't want to or mean to. And again, not being about perfect. Okay? Nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm not trying to preach to you like I'm some sort of I'm not, so wonderful. I make mistakes too. We all do. But as my old friend said years ago, I've been really lucky to have some really wise people around me. said, Alan, when you judge yourself and how you grow, do not judge yourself on one moment. You look at what you did throughout that whole year. Look at all the good, look at all the bad, and ask yourself, do you have much more good that you did that year and much less bad? Or in that year, do you have a lot more bad that you regret doing and way less good? He judged himself based on a yearly scale because it gave him the ability, the flexibility to make mistakes. But then for that one mistake he did, he would do 5 or 6 good. And I really like that about him. To me, that was really wise, because then to me, it was like, okay, so I don't have to try to be perfect. And I say perfect because that word perfection comes up so often with so many people. But instead of trying to be perfect, we're just trying to be a lot better. And he said to me, he said, Alan, if you can look at this year and notice that who you are today is better in some way, better this year than you were 12 months ago. And you're better 12 months ago than 12 months before that, and 12 months before that. If every year you're starting to notice something about you is getting better, then that is when you get to classify yourself as being at some level of success. And of course, there's different levels to success, right? We're all trying to climb that ladder. But he said, if you can look at yourself and just realize, hey, I used to really suck at that. I'm actually not bad at that now. I used to really lose my temper over there just from one look from that person. Now, I can actually hang in there for about a good 5-10 minutes. That's not bad. And I want to share that in closing because I want to implore that to you. I want to implore to you that no matter where you are in this stage of anger management, that number one, remember, you're doing your best you can. Don't wait for somebody else to pat you on the back. Pat yourself on the back. Because most people I've met, they beat themselves up too much. Way too much. And number two, be real with yourself at the stage of just knowing. Like, where am I really in terms of my anger management and control? Am I where I want to be? Or am I kind of lacking in certain areas? You don't have to say this to anybody else. You just say it to yourself. And wherever you feel like you're lacking, the last part, simply ask yourself that question. What am I willing to be more flexible about? What rule can I kind of bend a little, knowing that it doesn't hurt anybody, nobody gets damaged, taken advantage of, nothing like that, nothing negative, just more of a personal preference? What can I be more flexible about in hopes to be able to sustain that relationship I have with this person versus just try to stick to my rules and know that I'm going to lose that person as the months and years go by? If you can make that one thing, like if you can just pick one thing for yourself today and stick to that one thing, just on a daily, just every morning, tell yourself, I'm going to stick to this one thing today. I promise if you make that the habit beginning today, your life could radically look much different in just 12 months from now. Oh, Dylan, 12 months though, man. 12, that's so long. I hear that a lot. Kind reminder, 12 months is going to show up whether you like it or not. The question is, who are you going to be 12 months from today? You going to be the same guy? You going to be the same girl? Same woman? You going to have the same temper? Are people going to look at you generally the same way? Or in 12 months, are they going to see an improved you, a more patient you, more understanding you, a more calm you, a more comfortable version of you that makes them want to be more around you versus wanting to leave or walk away or create distance? I'm not here to preach and tell you what to do. It's your life. It's your choice. But if you stuck with us to the end of this talk, which has roughly been about half an hour now, then I believe you're that person that wants more for your life. And we're here to help guide you because we've been there too. We're not talking like we're so great, rah, rah, rah. No. I've destroyed, I can't speak for Helen, but for me, when I was younger, I destroyed some of my closest relationships. And I had to learn to rebuild this guy so he didn't go out in the world and destroy more relationships as he got older, but instead learn to nourish them. So I'm talking to you, sharing with you from the experience of loss and having to learn to rebuild my life again and my relationships again. So I hope that helps. Thank you so much for listening in. We appreciate you so much. If you got questions, you got comments, please let us know. We're an open book. We'll share whatever we can with you. If it helps you get out of that place, in hopes to get out of that place of survival and at least get you to that point of stability or security and moving towards your ability to have success in your personal anger management control and your personal relationships. We hope that helps. Helen, anything else you want to share before we wrap it up?
Thank you so much, Alan, for explaining so much in detail. Yeah, just to conclude, it's important to focus on the good stuff about the person that you feel angry about, not just the negative things, the bad things about them, right? Tony Robbins always talk about, we always share the bad things, but what about the good thing, right? Everything have two sides. So next time you decided to get mad or, at the person in front of you, challenge your thought, right? Challenge your thought. And then second, ask yourself, what is, because the reason, I forgot to explain, the reason you get mad at that person because you have a thought or an expectation about that person that are not met, right? It's in your head, your expectation, right? Tony Robbins always say, replace expectation with appreciation. It's a big term, but when you remember that quote, replace expectation with appreciation, it applies to everything in life. Our thoughts, our assumptions, our feelings about things, right? So for every good thing, there are also negative things. For every negative thing is also a good thing. So life is about balance, but just recognize when to use those, all right? Recognize what your thoughts are going to, right? Where your focus go, energy flow. So if you keep focusing on expectation that the expectations are not met, your body will notice, that it's feeling differently, angry, tension, shouting, screaming. But you focus on something good about that person. Focus on that person, feeling grateful, for example, or something else does come to your mind. I know this is some work that you have to do, right? Okay, we're switching from negative to positive. What am I grateful about this moment right now? You can name anything. The moment you feel starting to notice that anger energy comes out, started to rise in your head, and okay, stop. What am I grateful about this moment? Anything. Doesn't have to be big. It could be tiny. It could be something. Well, I'm still alive. That person's still here, still alive, healthy, whatever you want to name it. That moment, when you think about something positive, you will notice negative energy will start to lower, right? So it's important, again, to focus on the other side, good and bad. All right. And that is something you must do daily to train your mind the way you train your muscle. You take work. All right. Just practice it. And often you might fail at the beginning. But notice that, like everything else we learn in life, when something's new, we'll fail many times. But then you keep doing it. Repetition is another skill. Another quote from Tony Robbins. You get better at it. Right. Just like my client. She texted me today. I know she's trying. She's doing well. She recognizes it and she admits it. That's a good start. And then admitting it and noticing that you're acting this way and that you can do something about it is second step that you're on your way to become better, right? So replace your expectation with appreciation. Major I would say, phrase that you wanted to imprint it in your head. So every time you notice yourself feeling angry or any negative feelings, Helen said, replace expectation with appreciation. In other words, what am I grateful at this moment? I know it's going to be hard, but do it anyway. All right. If you work out in the gym, you probably know what I'm talking about. When it's hard, you push through, you feel so much better. All right. You will notice everything in your body starting to change. Okay. So that's what I want to leave is simple things that you can practice. And the next week, maybe we'll give you another tool to practice. Okay. If I give you too much, you might not remember. So just this week, remember this one quote from Tony Robbins. Okay. So thank you so much, Ellen, for sharing today. And again, if you have any questions, just private message us. And if you want to support, want to share other areas that's bothering you, that's the anger is just a service level, we also love to invite you to private message us, then we can have a chat and help you handle whatever is bothering you. Because I know being a mom, being a parent is challenging, but it's also rewarding. And then we have the responsibility to be our best. When we become better, the people around you become better. I guarantee you that. All right. So that's why we're here. I'm not here for ourselves. We live in this world where we're all connected. Okay. So somehow the universe probably brought me here for a reason. Maybe you're looking for prayers, for answers, and you happen to be in this group. So, and that's why you encounter us. So whatever we tools provide you, experiment it. And again, when you become better, the world around you become better. And that's how it works. All right. So thank you so much. We'll see you next week.